So chapter 9.2, we're going to graph quadratic functions. I want to make it clear that you should already know how to graph these by making a table and graphing them. The way we're going to graph them in this section is we're going to use the axis of symmetry and the vertex, but you should already be able to graph these. I'm just going to show you a different way to graph them. All right, so the first thing you need to know is that the axis of symmetry is found by using this equation, negative b over 2a. And to use this equation, you have to know which number is which letter. And then the x-coordinate of the vertex is also that same negative b over 2a. So every time you get a quadratic equation, what you want to do is put it in standard form. So example 1 here is already in standard form for you. And then the coefficient of the x squared term is your a, so it's going to be 1. That's going to be your a. The coefficient of your x term is your b, and then the constant is your c. And you can remember that as c for constant. So if your axis of symmetry is negative b over 2a, then for this equation, that's going to be negative 6. Okay, so that's the opposite of negative 6, which is positive 6, over 2a, which is 2 times 1. So it's going to be 6 over 2, which is 3. So your axis of symmetry is going to be a vertical line through 3 on the x-axis. Okay, so there's my axis of symmetry. That's not the graph of it. That's just the vertical line that the parabola is around. And once we find that, we're going to find 2 other points on the graph. So to find the 2 other points, one of the best things to do is to find the y-intercept. And the y-intercept is when x is 0. So what I want you to do is plug in 0 for x. So that's going to be y equals 0 squared minus 6 times 0 plus 4. Well, that's 0 minus 0 plus 4, so y equals 4. So that gives me the point 0, 4. So it's going to be another point on the graph. It's going to be way up here. And I know that it's going to be symmetrical around this. I just don't know if it's going to go up or down. But you can tell if it's going to go up or down if you'll just look at your A. If your A is positive, that means it opens up like this. And if your A is negative, it means it opens down. So since I already know that it's going to open up like this, that means that I am going to have another point. See how this is 3 away from the axis of symmetry? It's going to be 3 away from the axis of symmetry on this side. So you can go ahead and put another point over here. And then also, since you know your axis of symmetry, that x equals 3, that's going to be your vertex point. You just have to figure out what your y is at that point. So if you'll take your x equals 3 that you got here and plug 3 in, that'll help you figure out where y has to be. So that's going to be y equals 3 squared, now I'm plugging it into this equation, minus 6 times 3 plus 4, which is going to be 9 minus 18 plus 4, which is going to be negative 9 plus 4, which is negative 5. So if I go down 5 on my axis of symmetry, then I've got my 3 points. So you find your y-intercept by plugging in 0 for x, and that gives you this point. You use symmetry to put it on the other side of the axis of symmetry. And then you find your vertex point by plugging in your axis of symmetry, x in for x, and then that'll give you your y, so that's going to give you the point 3, negative 5. And so when you have 3 points, you can draw your parabola. Okay, so let's try that again together. The very first step you need to take is you need to figure out what your A is, your B is, and your C is. So for this equation, your A is going to be right here. Your B is here, and your C is here. So your A is -1, your B is 4, and your C is -2. That is the very first thing you have to figure out. Then you plug it into your axis of symmetry equation, which is -b over 2a. So it's the opposite of b, -4, over 2a, 2 times -1. And I get -4 over -2, which is +2. Which means my axis of symmetry is going to go through +2. Just like that. Okay, I did a dotted line this time. I don't want you to think just because you draw your line that you're finished. Okay, your next step is to find your y-intercept. So to find your y-intercept, you're going to, I'm going to put y-intercept and then plug 0 in for x, because that's pretty much what you're doing. So take your equation, y equals, and replace every x with a 0. It'll be -0 squared plus 4 times 0 minus 2. So it's going to be 0 plus 0 minus 2. So your y-intercept is going to be the point 0, -2. So if you put that point, oh, that's -2, sorry. So it's going to go down 2. Got to graph the points right. And then if you use symmetry, it's going to have to be 2 on the other side. So see how I'm 2 on the left-hand side of the axis of symmetry? It's also going to have a point 2 on the right-hand side because it's symmetrical. That's, you know, you can fold it over that line. So that's why I know that point's going to be there. And then you also need to find your vertex point. So to find your vertex point, I'm going to put find vertex. And then what you do is you plug that 2 that we got in for x, and that'll give you your point for your vertex. So plug 2 in, and I get y equals -2 squared plus 4 times 2 minus 2. So y equals -4 plus 8 minus 2. So y must be 2. So I'm going to go up 2. And see, this one opens down because my A is negative. Anytime that first term is negative, you're going to have a downward opening parabola. So you can just draw your curve through those 3 points. Okay. All right, here are your questions. Make sure you put these on a separate sheet of paper, and you have to show all of your work. I expect... for the first 2, all you have to give me is the axis of symmetry, so x equals, and then you have to give me the coordinates of the vertex. But for your next 2 questions, you have to actually give me the graph. So I need 2 answers where I just have the x equals, and then I have a point for the vertex. And then for 3 and 4, you need to give me the graph, and you need to label the axis of symmetry and the vertex. Or if you have any questions, you can... probably just Remind 101, because I don't always check my email or Twitter or Facebook, so Remind 101 is the best way. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow.